Blog Talk Radio.
Are you ready? The champ is here! It's just a man! Give me a hell yeah! What the rock is cooking? To be the man, you have to be the man! Big bubble pump! And you're hooked up!
Falling!
At the end of woo, woo, woo! Cup of coffee in the big day.
It's Sunday night, and you know what that means. Fancast Media brings you the latest edition of Working the Marks here, folks. We've been off the air for a little bit, but welcome back here during the month of June. And, of course, I am New Jersey's premier award-winning journalist, top 50 Latino, and the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State media is Fernando Uribe, and he is New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst, the notorious and the very, very dubious William Goldberg fan, as you know, folks. He is Brian First, not the last, our good friend here on Working the Marks. Of course, he is the PBR superstar.
You just made the last!
Patrick Rivera. What's going on, big man?
You see how that word Goldberg just gets heat? Like you were like, oh no, Goldberg. He's a fan of Goldberg.
God, William Goldberg. I'll tell you what's going on. What's going on there, Brian First?
Brian First, not last. Do your research, bro. All right. Do your research.
I always try. And
do your research. Okay.
Folks, again, thanks for joining us here on the 4th of June from wherever and however you may be doing so on StreamYard.
It's been a minute though, right? Look at me. I'm fucking crooked. I'm trying to get this fucking camera down here. But I mean, buddy, it's been a while, huh?
No, man, it's been
a lot's happened.
Early start the summer, been going out a lot on Sundays, hitting that Pier 13, that great venue that I know.
You love that place, huh?
Oh, mad chicks there, bro. It's you always clean up there. You know what I'm saying? It's a good spot, let me tell you. But folks, again, sharing is caring. Click that share button, whether it's on your Facebook or also on YouTube. Get us on all your social media platforms, folks. You can check out our screen names down there and shoot us a message on Instagram, Twitter, or Facebook as well, ladies and gentlemen. And a shout out to our amazing producer, Dee Rotten, who makes this show possible.
Acknowledge me.
And acknowledge our media chief, Dee Rotten, here on Working the Marks. Brian, I gotta tell you, man, a lot to talk about.
You don't have to call me Brian. You could just call me fucking Patrick. This is just a fucking break balls. You know?
Well, it's a little disclaimer. I think he doesn't like the name Brian for multiple reasons. That's for another show.
No, not at all. My favorite wrestler's name is Brian. But
there you go. So Patrick, bro, a lot to talk about right now. Obviously, the news feed. Let's get started here.
Why do I look like I'm like in Hudson County Court? Like why does it look like that? Like I'm in a courtroom right now, and like
you look like you're I'm
in the jail. Like I look like I'm in the jail.
Listen, you look like Edward Norton in American History X. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it's a good look for you. I like that.
Oh no, but I don't get down like that. All right, I'm
not
one of those skinheads. I'm a sharp.
There you go. But bro, a lot to unpack it here. Obviously on the news feed, one of the big stories over the weekend, major dream match that we've been thinking about for years. It's now a reality.
Yeah.
Coming up, obviously during, I believe, a New Japan Dominion this weekend. There was a show where Okada, Tanahashi, and Tomohiro faced off against Shota Umino, Jon Moxley, and Claudio Castagnoli. Subsequently, after the match itself, we saw a video airing of Bryan Danielson walking through a desert. Therefore, Danielson speaking to Okada and issuing the challenge for Forbidden Door later on this month in Chicago at the United Center. Busy?
I think it's actually in Toronto.
Oh, Toronto. Excuse me. That's right. My bad. It's going to be at the Scotiabank Arena, home of the NHL's Toronto Maple Leafs.
You said that wrong, Fern. You got to say Scotiabank Arena.
Scotiabank. And home of the NHL's Toronto Maple Leafs and the NBA's Toronto Raptors. I got to tell you, man, listen, it's a pretty big size building. And if you want to try to fill it, you got to come up with some dream matches. And subsequently, too, obviously, with William Ospreay defeating Lance Archer, he's now the #1 contender for the New Japan US Heavyweight title, which sets up a rematch from Wrestle Kingdom against Kenny Omega. So this Forbidden Door card's looking pretty good, man.
Well, congratulations, Tony Khan. You got my fucking attention again. I'm really, really interested to see what comes of this whole thing. I think it's about time that we get Danielson and Okada. Kenny and Ospreay, it's interesting. The first match was good. It wasn't my favorite. I wasn't really such a fan of it because the way they just stiffed the shit out of each other. And I understand they work snug in Japan. I get the whole strong style thing. I get all that stuff. But I mean, I just felt like it was a little unnecessary. Didn't really do much to add to the greater story of the match. And I kind of enjoyed Zack Sabre Jr.'s match and Okada and Jay White a lot more. With that being said, for that audience, regardless of how I might feel about it, it's going to be a really, really big matchup. The crowd's going to be into it there. It's certainly going to deliver. But do I think that it's going to be better than the two best wrestlers in the world, Bryan Danielson and Kazuchika Okada? Hell no. That's going to be the match of the night, and I think everybody knows that. So good luck to anybody else that has to work on that card, because that's going to be a tough, tough act to follow. If Tony Khan was smart, he would definitely make that the main event, you know? And just to add to that, for Forbidden Door, I'd like to see a couple of other matchups. One of the matchups that I'd really, really like to see is MJF against Toru Yano. Toru Yano is more of a comedy wrestler guy. He's a Japanese, amateur wrestling champion. He's a legit dude, like a lot of those guys out there are. And he's a really good comedy wrestler, and he's great with the character work. I would love to see him in MJF. I think he'd be the perfect matchup for MJF. Obviously, we're going to end up seeing Tanahashi and CM Punk, right? I think it's fair to say that, unless they do Kenta versus Punk. I think Kenta versus Punk would be a more interesting matchup, especially with Kenta calling him out over using his move and not really giving him any credit over it. But regardless of that, I think that this is one of the high points of the year for AEW. I think anytime that they get to work with a company the caliber of New Japan, as far as it goes with their in-ring talents, it's always a plus for them. So they have my attention now. Let's see where they go, because usually they shit the bed after this. Last year's wasn't as good as it could have been. You didn't have the guys that you wanted in it. Danielson was out. I don't think Punk was injured too. So it was a bad scene all around. But congratulations, Tony Khan. You got my fucking attention again.
No, what's interesting though, I mean, again, and this will make you laugh though, Pat, because bell time will be 7 p.m. So last year's was nearly 5 hours. I anticipate probably this year's Forbidden Door is going to be just as long. If you're incorporating obviously all the stars from New Japan and AEW, you want to maximize it. So, I mean, listen, we might be getting 11 matches. I mean, last year was 12 matches. So,
well, Fern, I got to be honest, I get where you're coming from, and I think it's a little much, because, and imagine being a fan at this show, it's got to be exhausting. But for me, this is where Tony Khan really needs to utilize Ring of Honor. I mean, having a Ring of Honor show that weekend, which I think he is running that same weekend, is he?
I believe so. Friday, yeah, I believe.
Okay.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. What we're seeing with, and we'll get to some news in a moment. Other news, which is sort
of.
Why
did we shrink? Oh, okay, there we are. Okay.
And obviously, like, there's some other news that's relevant to why Forbidden Door is important, because there's going to be shows leading up to it. A new show, which we'll talk about in a moment. It almost makes you wonder that you have to kind of incorporate this other brand, right? With Ring of Honor, and you want to get those stars some TV time. Like, listen, he's kind of winding down in his career. If you can get Samoa Joe on this card at Forbidden Door, why not? To your point about Ring of Honor, get some of these people on the card where you still need some mainstream names or names that audience likes or knows about. The thing is, New Japan, you're a New Japan aficionado. You're going to know New Japan's rosters probably better than any wrestling, analyst locally here on the Northeast for the most part.
I know bigger fans. My buddy ASJ, he's a big fan. Shout out to ASJ.
It's one of those things where it's important to get some other names. To your point about Ring of Honor, hey, if you can get Samoa Joe in there, probably the Lucha Brothers, right? They might defend the Ring of Honor World Tag Team titles. But if they're doing it that weekend with a Ring of Honor show, that's good too, I think.
Well, yeah, I think it would be smart for Tony to, instead of put like all his huge matches on Forbidden Door, have some at the Ring of Honor show as well. And I think doing that, and also using the Ring of Honor show to showcase more of the younger people that he would probably end up booking on Forbidden Door, he gives them a chance to kind of get their shine, but also, he kind of saves the good matchups for that. And you throw in a couple of, good, like have Samoa Joe take on, like, I don't know, whoever you can come up with, for him to take on. But I mean, use that Ring of Honor show to also kind of be a two-parter for the weekend and make it a 2-night thing, and also raise the interest of the Ring of Honor show, because obviously more people are going to be interested in Forbidden Door. But I mean, run in the same building, do it back-to-back nights, you know what I'm saying? And then just book big matches split on both cards, and you're kind of using that formula, but he's not going to do that because, WWE does it, when he's basically doing the same fucking thing anyway.
Well, this is the thing, though, and again, I couldn't find anything about that weekend, but I know that Death Before Dishonor is coming up in July, on Friday, July 21st, and how would you know it, folks? It's at the Cure Insurance Arena in the dump of New Jersey, Trenton, its capital, coincidentally. That's the only ROH show I think coming up that I see. I think that's going to be on pay-per-view. I don't know if there's anything that weekend, but I know Death Before Dishonor is coming to Trenton, New Jersey in July. Maybe I don't see anything about Forbidden Door weekend, so I could be wrong, but I haven't found anything.
Well, again, like, this is where him, like, kind of using his brain, putting on his fucking thinking cap really would come in, because it's like, dude, book that building back-to-back nights. You know what I'm saying? Have your Ring of Honor show there the night before. The same people that turn up for Double or Nothing or Forbidden Door are going to turn up for the Ring of Honor show. Use the same formula that the WWE uses. Use that as a way to expose other talent. But again, it's more of the same old shit with him, dude. Like, he's trying to run it as two separate brands. You can run it as two separate brands, but you could also sell it as a weekend, And that's the thing. So it's like, oh, they're going to Rampage, or I guess they're going to do Collision that weekend. Is that what they're going to do?
I understand that there is going to be a Collision show, yes, in Toronto that weekend. Actually, the night before, because it's a Saturday. So speaking of Collision, real quick, obviously, big news bit this week, man. Obviously, Tony Khan this past Wednesday on Dynamite, since it seems like it's a weekly thing now where it's a big announcement from Tony Khan, right? It's become the norm. He did announce coming up on, I believe, just looking at the calendar here, for Saturday, June 17th, the premiere of AEW Collision, which, if you look at the logo, is just sort of a ripoff of the old WCW Monday Nitro logo. More on that later, but it's going to be emanating from the United Center in Chicago. It'll be headlined by CM Punk. Smart move by Tony. If you want to really make sure that ticket sales are as close to possible, as full as possible. Maybe not First Dance full, but maybe close to it. Collision's going to be that show. I think that I would assume probably is going to do something to set up Forbidden Door, because it is on a Saturday, and leading up to it, June 17th, June 24th, that weekend, they'll be doing some shows, and we'll see what I guess where Punk fits into all of this, since he's returning. And quite frankly, Tony Khan has no choice. You're paying the guy $5 million. You got to use him.
Another major announcement from Tony Khan. I mean, I got to keep the gimmick going. So,
of course.
Look, it's more of the same old thing. Punk's coming back. Punk's going to be doing his thing. That's going to be good for them for that show. But I'm skeptical about Saturday, bro. And I'm with you. Like, I got to really... I just don't see that really working out for anybody outside of their fan base. And I understand that the fan base is what's keeping the company going, but you're not creating any new fans with anything like that. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, people will DVR and stuff like that to watch and things like that. But like, most of the time, especially with some of the shows that are coming back on HBO and a lot of the other streaming networks, people are going to prefer to watch that instead of watching Collision. Let's be honest. So I expect it to do well at the beginning, depending upon what they do, depending upon where they go. From what we're hearing, too, there's some rumors that CM Punk and Ace Steel have some creative influence on the show itself. What that means, we don't know yet. You know what I'm saying? But obviously, his stuff is going to be done pretty well for the most part. But I'm just curious to see how he's going to perform, how he's going to come back, his durability. That's a big thing, too. And how he's going to use his abilities and his star power to help potentially maybe elevate other people or influence the product as a whole.
Well, this is the problem. And I think that, listen, you're paying, as I said, you're paying the guy $5 million. Khan has to go with the guy that can help push ticket sales, some buy rates, merch, and all that stuff. And listen, it's risky, man. You know, doing a show on Saturday nights. And listen, this isn't the 90s where I used to love having dinner and watching WCW Saturday night. Yeah, it was a tape show. I get that. But, you know, Collision's supposed to be live on Saturdays, not like unlike Rampage, where occasionally it's live, but by and large, it's taped right after Dynamite. I mean, 2 hours on a Saturday in the middle of the summer, 8 to 10. Again, the NBA Finals will be done. The Stanley Cup Finals will be done. Yeah, we're right in the smack middle of baseball season, MLS, without a doubt, you know, Champions League stuff, other elements of television consumption that is going to provide options for people. And unless you're a diehard fan, and listen, I'll be watching some of it. I'll be either finishing dinner, getting ready to go out. It's the summer. I'll be out like a lot of people will be. But the problem, I think, with this sort of format is that, you know, you're trying to compel people to watch wrestling on a Saturday night where that model worked a while ago, you know, and it's like, not to sort of bring up something really ancient, but like, yes, during the times of, you know, syndication and pre-streaming and pre-cable per se, yeah, you know what? Saturday Night's Main Event was awesome on a quarterly basis. Like it was like, you know, every few months leading up to the pay-per-views. And, you know, again, it was right before the internet. We didn't know who was going to win. We looked forward to that on a Saturday Night's Main Event. Yeah, we were younger. It was 11:30 at night. NBC did a good job. But those times have changed. The way we consume television, Patrick, has changed. The idea that we're going to have options. And if you don't want to watch Collision, you can watch the replay later. So, you know, for AEW fans that get all sensitive about, well, you know, people like me that will go on wrestling pages or comment and opine, oh, you know, 800,000 viewers on a Wednesday night and then 250,000 on a Friday. What's going to change on a Saturday night? Like, I get Punk is a name, but if you're not booking good matches or coherent storylines, it's just going to be much ado about nothing.
I agree. I think that having CM Punk helps them, but on the same token, it's like, okay, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do to bring me in, to make me give a fuck about this product that really hasn't succeeded in making me give a fuck about it? I mean, and look, I wouldn't say we're casuals, you know? I think you and I watch enough, but we have a casual interest in terms of like, I think we relate more to the casual fans. That's what I'm trying to say.
Sure.
Yeah. In terms of our interests, like we want to see storylines. Yeah, good wrestling's cool. Good wrestling's awesome. I can appreciate good wrestling. You know, I can appreciate Gunther and Sheamus and Drew.
We're not seeing it on Wednesdays.
You know?
We're not seeing it on Wednesdays.
Well, but that's the thing, though. We're not seeing that. And then on top of it all, they're marketing it that way.
Yeah.
They're trying to say that this is where you're going to see the best professional wrestling. And I get it. It's a gimmick. You got to sell it and stuff like that. But like, they're not really delivering on it. You know, they're not. And more importantly, they don't have a lot of good character work. You know, outside of the usual suspects that are on that show, there's nobody else that's going to draw you in. And look, forget about the Bloodline. Nobody's going to touch that shit. But try and be interesting for what you're trying to do. And right now, I just feel that them bringing CM Punk back is their last-ditch effort at trying to pull fans back. But the question is once you pull them back, what are you going to do? And if history speaks for itself, Tony Khan historically has not been very good with maintaining interest of a broader audience. Okay? Tony Khan will have you for a little bit, and then he'll let you go because he doesn't do what needs to be done. And look, a lot of that is, again, it's systemic stuff we've covered here. Listen to some of our back episodes, okay? We've covered this stuff about 1 million times. But Tony Khan needs to use CM Punk to the best of his ability. And the rest of the program needs to be compelling as well. Because, look, there's a lot of talent there, okay? It doesn't matter what kind of wrestling you like. It doesn't matter what style, what anything. There's a lot of talent there.
Well, no, you're right. And I think there's also something that I think a lot of people aren't talking about online, though, Pat, is we're now creating a clutter, I think, when it comes to Tony Khan and AEW content. Because, again, yes, Saturday, June 17th, you're having the premiere of Collision. It's setting up to some extent. Obviously, you have Dynamite and Rampage the following week. And then, obviously, you have Forbidden Door coming up at the end of June. And then, of course, what you're trying to do, I think, effectively is start building towards All In England coming up in late August, right? And then subsequently, the very next week is Labor Day weekend, and that's All Out in Chicago. So I think we're going to have a clutter or almost a bottleneck of content, potentially, if it's done correctly, that could lead into making these shows really important and getting these shows to hopefully sell out. We've talked about All In and potentially what it's going to look like in Wembley, in London in late August. And we mentioned it before. Listen, it's late August. And for those of us who are football fans, obviously, especially in England, that's when the Premier League is resuming and it's new season. And for people in North America, that might not be a big deal. And you may not even care. Well, you should, because obviously for those of you that watch football, whether it's on Peacock, right, and you're watching it with 75,000 ads during a game or any other event, like, it's important. And I think that that's a challenge Tony Khan's going to have to try to overcome, in addition to making the programming relevant. Like, how are you going to book Forbidden Door, and what does that open, excuse the pun, doors for the dynamites that are going to follow, the collisions, right? We're going to have the Owen Hart Invitational Memorial Cup tournament resume later this month and into July. That's what's going to, obviously, Collision's going to have a lot of those matches and the finals and all that stuff leading into August, and All In and then All Out. I just think Tony's kind of batting himself into a corner, though, Pat, because yes, there's talent on the rosters, both Ring of Honor and AEW, that he can use, but he's just not using them correctly. Bro, the idea that Orange Cassidy is now 18 successful title defenses, okay? And the idea that's how he's perceived by this audience as a workhorse champion, bro, it's insulting as a pro wrestling fan. When I think of workhorse champions, I don't think of Orange Cassidy. But I think that's, again, I mean, not to sort of get off on a tangent, I think this is the bottleneck that Tony's putting himself into with all this new programming and content and this and that. He's not booking it correctly. And again, it might create a problem for him.
Well, I mean, look, I know you're not an Orange Cassidy guy, right? It's not really for me either. But if you look at the ratings, you know, per segment, his ratings always peak pretty high, man. And whether it's for us or not, it's for that audience. Yeah. And they like it and they're interested. And more importantly, I think for people who've never seen the gimmick, there's a certain level of intrigue, you know, like, what the fuck is this about? The guy with the sunglasses, you know what I'm saying? You know, and he's got his hands in his pockets and stuff. Yeah, he looks like a fucking DJ. He doesn't look like a wrestler. Apparently, I found out, and I'd like to credit our friend Christopher Michael Coppinger here, D. You know, can we give him like a Hot 97 horn or something like that? Or can we give him, like, you know, something like a shout out? Anything, D? No? All right, fuck him. But there we go. Thank you. Good friend of mine, CMC, told me that the character is based on a character played by Paul Rudd in a movie called Wet Hot American Summer. Now, obviously, when he told me that, I thought it was an adult film. I didn't know what it was about. But upon further inspection, I found out that it was kind of like this indie comedy film, and Orange Cassidy's character is based on it. So, but you know, getting back to, you know, what we were talking about, you know, yeah, you don't have to like that, but I understand what his purpose is. But on the same token, if you're building this guy as something interesting, right, where he doesn't really need the title, right? What about Wardlow? What are you doing with Wardlow? Because Wardlow, to me, looks like a serious main eventer. You know, Orange Cassidy is a cult character. That's what he is. He's like a cult favorite character. You know, he's a good worker. He can go. He has abilities. Okay. But he's a cult character. You know, he's for that audience. He's no different than like a Santino Marella. He's no different than any comedy character that we've ever seen. R-Truth, you know, he's no different than that. And all three of those guys are good workers in their own right. But Wardlow, to me, is a guy that's kind of like going down the drain. The Acclaimed, what are they doing with them? What's going on there? You know, just all these other sidebars, like Ref Aubrey's going to have a match. Okay, I understand that. Look, For as silly as it might seem, I get it, right? Because she's over with the crowd. She's over with them. She is.
No, she
No,
is.
I personally don't think she's a particularly good referee. Okay, that's my observation. I don't. I think she gets away.
You're being kind.
I think she gets in the way a lot. Nah, man. Look, you gotta give her surface level respect, man. She's getting in the ring. She's doing it. Okay. Anybody who steps foot between those ropes, you gotta give them entry level respect, man. Sorry. But for TV, for the stuff that she's doing, she's in the way quite a lot. So she ruins a lot of like tight shots that, the face to face, like Hogan, fucking Rocky type shit where, they was doing. Now imagine if Earl Hebner was standing smack dab in the middle of that fucking shot, or whoever the referee was in that match. I think it was Little Nate. But like, come on, man. It just little things like that. And look, I understand that, that her having a match is cool, but like, you should be focused on other aspects of your programming. You should be focused on showcasing the young talent that you have with good character work, like and getting them over and making them compelling so that people tune in to watch them.
Also, yeah, you're right. I mean, and also featuring champions in a way that makes them credible. I mean, they're not for you, but like, okay, you just finished having Double or Nothing. The match was somewhat entertaining between FTR and Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. Okay, let's move on from that. What are you doing to elevate FTR as the tag champs? Because that's what they are. Same thing with Wardlow. What are you doing to elevate your champions? It just seems like Tony's more interested, in my opinion, in just making this. Well, listen, I tune in AEW because it's comical and it's entertaining. I'm never going to sit there and call you Wednesday night or Thursday morning. But hey, listen, Pat, bro, what a great wrestling edition of Dynamite, like, bro, matches. I'm not going to do that. Yeah. I'm entertained. I'll be, hey, bro, this was funny, and holy shit, look at this segment, and like, bro, I was dying laughing. That, for the most part, is how I look at AEW. Now, someone might say, well, Fern, like, you're not being intellectually honest. Like, why are you tuning in? If you don't like the product, I didn't say I don't like it. I'm entertained by it. It's why I watch it. It's why I watch Impact. I'm entertained. Now, it's better wrestling on Impact Wrestling, and I'll plant a flag on the hell on that one, and I'll take the Pepsi Challenge, to quote Patrick Rivera. But like, I watch wrestling because I want to be entertained. I also watch it because I like to see good wrestling. That's what Mondays and Fridays is for, not Wednesdays. But I'm sorry, bro. Go on.
No, nothing, bro. I'm just having a fucking snack here. But, it's the shits. It's the shits.
There are fans that think it's good wrestling. I'm like, what do you base this on?
But that's fine. That's fine because it's what they like.
Sure.
Because they want to see the 45 million fucking wrist locks and the chain wrestling and the fucking standoffs and the fucking nip ups and all this shit and the fucking moonsault into the Canadian Destroyer shooting star press, DDT on the apron through 17 fucking tables, and win with the fucking arm drag. I don't know. It's just it's not May 11th. It's just that it's not particularly fucking good. It's not particularly fucking good. And look, FTR, right? Not a fan, but they're fucking good. They're talented guys, right?
You just made the list.
Why aren't you trying to take these guys as your tag champions and elevate them to the level of, like, let's say the Usos? Try and do something with them along those lines. Everybody always said for years the WWE hates tag teams, right? Fucking tag team title match main event in WrestleMania night 1. That's fucking bananas.
Well, Pat,
it's still hot and it's still interesting.
Pat,
it's still hot and it's still interesting.
Pat, it took years to get to that, though. It took years.
Yeah, but nobody said that needed to be that way. Typically speaking, traditionally speaking, it's one-on-one matchups, or it's championship matchups, or attraction matches,
or the Rumble winners, essentially.
Yeah. Championship matchups, attraction matchups, once in a lifetime, twice, but, like stuff like that, man. You know what I'm saying? Like that makes sense. But the fact that the storyline was so fucking compelling that they had no choice but to make it the main event of night 1 says a lot about the work that those 4 guys put in and everybody that's involved with that angle. So, AEW can do this. More importantly, AEW can cuss. They can do all this stuff that WWE can't do. I can't believe I said cuss. And, they have a lot more leeway to be a little bit more graphic. They can bleed. They can do all this stuff. Bleeding don't mean shit in that company anymore. Okay, nothing.
Everybody bleeds.
And it's
Especially
crazy.
nosebleeds.
Everybody bleeds.
You talking about snowbleeds? But anyways.
Well, nobody's sitting in the nosebleed section, that's for sure, in these buildings for AEW. That's for sure.
Dude, they just, for every fucking metric that matters for a wrestling company, they're not doing very good. They're just not. And maybe they're just happy with that hardcore audience that's keeping them in business. Maybe they just want to fucking play to them and they don't want to grow anything else. But you're limiting yourself, you're limiting your talent, and you're limiting what your company's about, you know?
No,
and Wembley, man, let me tell you, dude. I think they should have saved Danielson Okada for that. That's what I think they should have done. Fuck doing it at Forbidden Door. Do Kenny and fucking this guy. Do the rubber match at Forbidden at All In, and then do Danielson and Okada, bro. That's a dream match. People would come from fucking Japan to see that. You know, like you could have done a lot more to fill the building. I mean, do I think they're gonna fill the building? No, I still say, you know what, 50,000, 45, 50,000. I think they're gonna do. But
I would say,
cheeseburger giveaway or fish and chips giveaway. You know, they're going to do it that way.
You know what's funny? Even when you mentioned that, and I know we laugh about it, but like even going into last weekend in Double or Nothing in Las Vegas, while there were promotions at the local hotel where there was like, you know, the MGM Grand or New York or Excalibur, not to be confused with the shitty announcer on AEW television.
You mean your hero? You told me privately that he's your role model. You were like, Pat, I really greatly admire Excalibur. He's the greatest American since Ron DeSantis. He's just a swell guy. No, you told me that you studied it and you even bought yourself a mask as well. That's
outside.
All right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to out you like that on the show.
Yeah, listen, I know what you're talking about, but what's funny though, I mean, to your premise about like these promotions that try to encourage ticket sales. Like, what are you going to do essentially when you were doing that, the T-Mobile Arena, home of what could be this year's Stanley Cup champions, the Las Vegas Golden Knights, I know, it drives me crazy, wasn't even sold out. And you would think for, again, Double or Nothing, it's hard to call it AEW's WrestleMania because it seems like All Out is in September. But that was their first pay-per-view back in 2019. So now we've had 5 Double or Nothings. And, notwithstanding that this past one wasn't very good compared to other years. But the point is that you couldn't sell out the T-Mobile Arena. To your point, it might be hard. Even with matches like Ospreay against Kenny Omega, Okada and Danielson, maybe FTR battling. And again, for the audience, you'll have to excuse me. I don't know offhand who the New Japan World Tag Team Champions are, but maybe set up a match against FTR or other potential very good singles matches. I don't know if that's enough to sell out the Scotiabank Arena in downtown Toronto. And then subsequently, again, you're going to have these shows up for Collision in Canada, right? You're thinking, the Calgary show is supposed to be, I guess, the finals of the Owen Hart Memorial Cup Invitational Tournament. What that means with Dr. Martha Hart in attendance and presenting the cup to both the male and female winners, I don't know. Then you have the show here at Prudential Center in Newark on Saturday. I believe I'm looking at the calendar here. Saturday, July the 15th. Excuse me, or the 22nd. I'm sorry, it's the 22nd. It seems like Khan isn't interested in, to your point, growing the audience, and it's annoying. Yeah. It's like, bro, like the small niche audience isn't going to keep it afloat, whether it's buy rates, whether it's merch, whether it's gate. I mean, it's and to think that this Time Warner Discovery, I think I did read that is going to, I guess, extend Tony Khan and AEW, and there's like this multi-billion-dollar deal on the table to be signed. How? Like, what is TNT and TBS and Discovery looking at numbers-wise that justifies giving Tony Khan an even bigger payday?
Subscriptions. It's simple. Subscriptions to Max, subscriptions to get shows on there to be able to get people to watch it. I mean, live content it's really, really big, man. I mean, when SmackDown's deal is up with Fox, it's going to be crazy. It's going to be a bidding war. It could even end up on Prime. It's going to end up on a lot of different places. Like, who knows, man, between now and then. But it's definitely about content. And look, even if it's subpar fucking content, I mean, think about how many fly-by-night TV shows there have been throughout the years. One season and that's it and it's done. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, that's right.
So what's the difference between that and, let's say, AEW, and if they can continue to produce a steady stream of subscribers, then I think that's really all that matters to them. But getting back to AEW, like as far as like the wrestling side of it goes, it's just like they need to do more, man. They need to do more. The MJF run has not been good. I think they got to put the title on Punk as soon as they can, because otherwise, what are you doing with him? What does he got to earn another title shot, man? Fuck that shit.
me.
Put him in at All In. Put him in at Wembley against MJF for the title.
I think CM Punk will win the Owen Hart Memorial Cup Invitational Tournament, and that will set him up as the number one contender.
Oh, God.
And with the finals,
is he going to do the whole Bret Hart thing again? Is he going to do it again?
Well, listen, he could be. If I would think the smart move would be for him to win the Cup tournament in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, in the finals. That's where the collision is.
Home of Lance Storm.
What's that?
Home of Lance Storm.
Yes, and the famous Hart family, of course. So hey, it's possible. Maybe he comes out with a pink singlet during the finals of the tournament and wins the Owen Hart Memorial Cup Invitational Tournament. And when Dr. Martha Hart presents the cup to CM Punk, maybe that again legitimizes him as the number one contender, to your point, and maybe that gets him a title shot against MJF, and maybe he gets but then again, dude, like MJF needs his win back. Like he already lost to Punk last year. He needs.
Who fucking cares? Who fucking cares? Okay, he needs to get his win back. That's such a fucking Mark thing to say. He needs his win back. No, he doesn't need his fucking win back. The company needs interest. They need people to fucking tune in and make the product matter. That's what they fucking need. Fuck his win. He can get his win later on when he's more fucking valuable. Look, he's talented. Don't get me fucking wrong. But CM Punk is a ratings draw.
No,
MJF
he is.
has not been doing it lately. With Punk there, at least they're going to be steady over 1 million until whatever happens. Who knows? But it's just better, man. Getting his win back, okay, great, fucking great. But let's get the company back to where it fucking should be. Let's build some more intrigue around him. Let's see some fucking character development instead of him doing the same thing that he's been doing for years. No, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry.
No, that's fair. No, that's fair. And speaking of world champion, from one world champion that really isn't drawing to, as you can see behind me there, a world champion that is drawing, obviously a hot button item over the weekend, Pat. On Friday was the celebration of the 1,000 days of the Tribal Chief.
Acknowledge me.
And now he's in rarefied air as he's soon to pass Pedro Morales on that list.
Great Puerto Rican.
Yeah, and Pedro Morales, tremendous champion. And listen, it's everything we expected with the drama of what the ceremony was, the unveiling of a new WWE Undisputed Championship title, which I think drove the marks crazy, as you could see on Twitter, where
that takes a lot usually, right? It usually takes a lot to get the marks going.
Yeah, it's like they bitch to live and live to bitch. Like other demographics I like to talk about, but that's another show. But what's interesting about the ceremony is that just when, well, not me personally, I'm intrigued completely by the storyline, but just when a lot of marks are complaining, the Bloodline storyline is getting stale. No, it's not. It's far from stale. It's as fresh as an avocado at Trader Joe's. Okay. And I don't particularly like avocados, but obviously I think hopefully everybody at home understands the correlation.
What? Yeah, I know. This
You're
is
not
weird.
brown.
He's fucking Hispanic and he doesn't like avocados. What the fuck?
I like guacamole mix with some chips and everything else, but I don't know. I'm not gonna go crazy about it.
All right, so you don't eat it you eat meat and stuff like that, like a piece of meat, rice, beans, you know what I'm saying? And then what? A little aguacate there, you cut it up, you put the slice.
Guacamole, guacamole.
But with guacamole, I'm talking about like you slice the avocado out of the fucking avocado, right? You put it over the rice and stuff like that, the rice and beans, and you eat it like that. A little bit of salt. You don't eat it like that. You never eaten it like that,
Bro, I don't eat yuca. I don't like yuca.
You don't like yuca, bro? What?
Time!
What?
Vader! Time!
I'll have it once in a while, but it's not like I'm foaming at the mouth.
All right,
Bro,
dude.
I'm white. White as a ghost, and I love yuca.
Yeah.
Because you're married to a Latina. I mean,
Before
No,
that, dude.
No, even before that. Yeah. No, man. No, man.
mean,
Come on.
but the point is that Roman Reigns and the Bloodline.
I love how you changed the subject about you not liking yuca. You know, that's funny.
So, I mean, bro, it's still compelling. And from one company whose world champion is just not drawing ratings, Roman Reigns, say what you want. And then a lot of marks online that are looking at this 1,000-day reign like, oh, give me a break. CM Punk had the belt for 434 days and defended it X amount of times. Roman Reigns has it 1,000 days. He's defended less than half of the times. Folks, it's how compelling the storyline is. And say what you want about how the bloodline is being portrayed. Listen, if it was up to me, I'd like to introduce a new member, whether it be Jacob Fatu or others. But again, for now, the inner turmoil, the civil war in the bloodline between Solo and Roman against the Usos is compelling television. It's going to be compelling leading up to Money in the Bank in London, coming up on Saturday, July 1st. Again, whether it's the ceremony of the new belt, what it means for Roman Reigns, the new merch, folks, it's greatness. And for a guy that, and I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer here, but for a guy whose health could always be at risk because of leukemia, because of a guy that's had to overcome a lot of health obstacles, give this guy his flowers. Roman Reigns has been gold on the mic. He's put on good matches. The Bloodline storyline is the best thing going in wrestling since 2020. I mean, what more do you want? Marks out there, what do you want? What more do you want? Because if it's compelling storytelling, it's not, you can't find anything better. Again, going back to Austin versus McMahon, the mega powers, like other than those two things, there isn't a better storyline or storytelling in professional wrestling in the last 2 decades. I just think 2 of them. Other than that, the Bloodline, there's nothing better.
Absolutely, man. I think the people that don't like it are like the AEW diehards. You know, they're the ones that'll sit there and watch fucking Sammy Guevara take on Pizzeria Uno in a fucking table on top of the arena match or something. I don't know. They'll watch some nonsense that it's no offense to those guys. They're talented guys too.
They love Jericho and MJF for a year and a half.
Right. They'll like this stuff. But I mean, look, dude, like at the end of the day, who gives a fuck about title defenses? Who gives a fuck about all that stuff? It's a fucking work, bro. Grow up. It's entertainment. Enjoy it, okay? If it was up to me, Roman would have defended the title twice all year, okay? and you know, it's just like, who gives a flying fuck? Like, people are tuning in to watch, oh, there's too much, you know, story stuff. You know, Roman could have lost the title and this still would have been good. No, man. So just to clarify, too, because I know there's a lot of confusion. I saw some of our comments here. Roman does not have 3 belts. Roman has 1 belt, and both belts have become the 1 belt. So, yeah. So now Roman has that 1 strap that he's walking around with that is the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Championship. That's a mouthful. But, you know, it's still very fucking compelling. I mean, the stuff that you watched this past weekend, right? The stuff with them on SmackDown.
Yeah.
All right. The hug, everything about it, the spike, all the emotion, the stuff that they're building up to get to Money in the Bank. I mean, that's going to be fantastic, man. I'm really, 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 really excited about that stuff. And again, you know, the people that don't like it are the people that want to see 47 flips and hardcore wrestling, you know, or they like the indie stuff, and that's fine. Go watch that stuff. That's cool. But like, when the numbers add up and everything that matters in the business is there, like money and numbers and all that good shit that, you know, keeps wrestling going. And more importantly, the biggest one, interest, you're onto something, man. So I feel bad for people who don't even like this fucking angle because I think it's brilliant. And to your point, it's one of the best in the last 25 years, bar none.
Again, I can't think, aside from the whole year-long mega power storyline of Hogan and Macho Man back in the late 80s to Austin McMahon in the mid to late 90s. I mean, there really hasn't been a storyline of this caliber that has been this long and detailed, and it's still fresh. Now, again, there are a lot of marks online, marks that we know personally, locally in Hudson County, or somewhere nationwide, as far out west as Nevada. Ewok, I swear. Was that an Ewok, or is that like
that's an Ewok without the garb?
Oh, I was about to say, yeah, without it's funny to me how you look at what this storyline represents. And again, the only not pet peeve, but I would say, hey, listen, at some point, adding more members wouldn't be the worst thing, Patrick. But I understand why for now this can suffice. What I would say though is that, and again, listen, I have the shirt behind me there. I'll buy a 1,000-day shirt. As far as I'm concerned, Roman could hold it until another 2,000 days. And Marks will complain and say, oh, I can't believe this. If he approaches Hogan's record or Bruno's record, that's sacrilegious. Like, what are we doing here? Again, Reigns reinvented himself in 2000. And whether people like it or not, what he's done as a heel, and even now, bro, like I hate to break it, he's still a heel, but there's elements of him that are somewhat, well, I don't want to say a tweener, but I mean, he's still a heel. But bro, the cheers he's receiving and the applause, that's not something you usually bestow upon a heel. But
it's debatable, Fern, though. It's really debatable, dude. And you know what? If anything, I think when he doesn't get those boos, it's a testament to maybe whoever he's not working being able to exude the emotion from the audience that they need to. I mean, you look at Sammy, right? Sammy was the perfect baby face for Roman. I mean, it was amazing.
Oh yeah,
you know. And the fact that a stadium, I mean, 70,000 people chanting "Fuck you, Roman," "Fuck you, Roman." I'm sorry, bro, but MJF don't get that shit. A lot of other quote unquote top heels don't get that shit. Dom Mysterio is the only one realistically that comes close to something like that. Isn't that something? All these AEW fans for years, Hook's better than Dom, since they started and stuff like that. Hook's better than Dom, bro. You out of your mind.
In what version of Earth? Is it Middle Earth? Is it like Lord of the Rings Earth?
Where John Stamos is president? That's the one. And,
what version of Earth are we talking about here that anyone would think that Hook? I mean, that's just madness to me. But go on. I'm sorry.
No. It's just again, man. Just the whole Roman thing. It's been tremendous. I've enjoyed it thus far. I look forward to see where it goes. I was one of the people. You listen to our old episodes here, folks, that I was kind of saying, hey, I think it's time to maybe end it. Cody's got something going here, and you know what? When they take an old dog like me for a fucking whirl, as far as wrestling goes, that says something. And I definitely think that the right decision was not putting it on Cody there, especially because Cody's doing his own thing. I've been enjoying the Lesnar and Cody matches. I know a lot of people talk about, it's not realistic, but man, there's fucking nothing realistic about the business in general, motherfuckers.
Pro wrestling, to be honest.
Seriously, bro. And these are the same people who are like, man, it was great, Hogan when I was a kid and the Ultimate Warrior and all this stuff. I mean, come on, bro. It's a part of the story. You know the deal. You understand the shtick. You get the fucking gimmick. When you get to a certain age, if it's still real to you, damn it, odds are you're probably not getting any.
It's still real to some people, both male and female, I think, right? So I mean,
it's pretty fucking sad. Yeah. Definitely some female. Definitely.
Speaking of sad, also very big on the news cycle this week, Pat. This past Tuesday, the premiere of season 4 of Vice's Dark Side of the Ring. A lot of good feedback about the episode. The premiere involved Chris Candido and Tammy Sitch. I know that's not a series that's for you. I know you don't like it as a former worker. I understand your reservations about what the series represents and what it emboldens in marks and in fans online. I got to tell you, I watched it twice. It was tough to watch, as a Jersey guy, hearing about Chris Candido and growing up here. Something I didn't know either, when he passed away, it was at Robert Wood Johnson Hospital in New Brunswick, which I didn't know. But watching that episode, man, seeing people like Jim Cornette, Dr. Tom Pritchard, Lance Storm get as emotional as they got, which you rarely ever see them get in shoot interviews or segments in general, just watching the life story of Chris and Tammy from high school sweethearts to Chris being such a devoted fan to like lying to his parents and taking a bus from New Jersey to Brooklyn to work as early. I think he was like 15, 16 years old.
14,
excuse me. You know, and how devoted he was to the business, and you know, obviously worked independent scenes, worked in Smoky Mountain, where, you know, obviously Cornette, and saw something in him and Tammy to make it to the WWF at the time as the Body Donnas, where, you know, again, let's be honest, in the early to mid 90s, everything was character or some occupation. You had a repo man, you had a garbage man, you had
a goon, you had a man Mountain Rock,
you had a guitar player, and in this case, you had two guys that were fitness gurus, you know, a guy and a girl. You know, you look at Chris Candido's ascension to WWF. Obviously, you know, some marks, you know, on Twitter right after the episode aired were like, hey, you know, if, you know, I almost forgot how much I hated Shawn Michaels and Paul Heyman. Well, guess what? This episode made me rethink and say, yeah, you know, I hate Shawn Michaels for what he did to him. It wasn't enough to steal his girl, but to kind of push him down in the mid card and, you know, tell Vince, hey, yeah, let's gotta squash this guy. Unfortunately, you know, some marks will take that, whether it's scripture or not, we don't know. We knew that eventually Tammy would become the bigger star of the pair, which she did mid to late 90s, right? It was not, you know, not fiber optic internet. It was still dial up in some cases, what was considered high speed for its time. AOL, the most downloaded girl, you know, on the internet until Sable came out on the scene. Bro, it was a sad episode. And for a guy that eventually got his life together after abusing drugs and pills and injuries, to meet his end, you know, after going to TNA in good shape with a good attitude again, to you know, to suffer that injury and then to get surgery and then to, you know, everything that happened to Chris Candido, it was a sad episode, man. And to think that Tammy, it just sounded like she still wasn't remorseful about what happened or the hand she had in his demise. And we all know about Tammy Sitch, 7 DUIs, now awaiting trial for vehicular homicide. It was a sad episode, man. It really, if you're a fan, it broke your heart.
I'm not a fan of Dark Side of the Ring. You know, you pointed that out. There's a lot of reasons why. I think a lot of it too is kind of made to kind of slander and shit on WWE a lot, when the wrestling business as a whole has been fucking sleazy since God was a boy. But you know, I'm not gonna really talk too much about his passing and stuff like that. But Chris Candido was a really fucking cool dude. Tammy was really cool too. They were both really great with me and my cousin when we were kids, and we were, you know, trying to learn about the business. And look, man, they could have told us to fuck off, really, you know? Yeah. They could have told us to go away like they did to some other people. But the fact that Candido talked to us, the fact that Candido was cool with us, and I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that we were kids too, and we were really devoted to wrestle. I mean, you know, my cousin and I used to take trains if we couldn't get rides. You know, my mom hated the fact that I wrestled, you know, but she would still drive me to some shows. Some shows were too far and stuff like that. But, you know, I did everything I could do to try and go. And so did my cousin. And you know, the fact that Candido saw that, I think he kind of really related to us in that sense. And he was just really cool with us. And, you know, we saw some of the negative aspects, I think, of their relationship and how, you know, toxic it could be. But overall, man, I think they were both important people to the history of the business. You know, obviously, you know, you're going to have the fucking the Shawn stuff. I mean, everybody, you know, I don't know if this is news or not, but Shawn wasn't a nice guy in the 90s. And everybody was rolling with Soma, you know, Somas. They were taking Somas. And you know, everybody was getting high and everybody was messed up, man. But, you know, for me, regardless of what was said on the show, Chris Candido will always be remembered, you know, by me personally as an amazing worker, a great person, and somebody who contributed very positively to pro wrestling. It's an unfortunate tale for both sides.
No, it really is. And again, just to sort of round out, it'll be 10 episodes in season 4. Coming up this Tuesday will be the story of Magnum TA, to be followed by Adrian Adonis, then to be followed by Doink the Clown. Subsequently, Matt Bourne, probably it'll center around, if not the character of Doink the Clown and what it represented, the Junkyard Dog, Marty Jannetty, Bam Bam Bigelow, another Jersey guy, Abdullah the Butcher, the disaster that was WCW Bash at the Beach in 2000. And I believe the season finale will be the Graham family. So haven't seen any numbers yet, ratings-wise, but you would think that, hey, this was probably going to get a good amount of interest into season 4 for Dark Side of the Ring. And if Vice, is looking to see whether or not a 5th season is justified, we're going to find out. There's some, again, coming up now, for example, Tuesday with Magnum TA. Big NWA fan growing up. Love Magnum TA. I think that, maybe someone won't say it out loud, but during that time period, yes, his motor vehicle accident was tragic. It wasn't due to any drugs or alcohol. It was just, Magnum was known to have a heavy foot and he loved to race, and it cost him his career. But I think also, too, we'll see if it's discussed and we'll see who is going to opine and contribute on the show. But Magnum was never going to get bigger than Dusty Rhodes and the Four Horsemen at that time in that company. Again, that's who they were. Dusty and Rick and Tully and Arn and Ole, and Magnum was never going to get bigger than them. And I know they were trying to groom him to be the next world champion. He was never going to get bigger than those stars in that company at the time. So we'll see. We'll see what Magnum's episode's about. I know
it's a good thing nobody under 45 fucking cares. Right.
Well, there you go. Okay, there you go. Again, I know it's not a series for you, Pat, but I think it's a lot of these episodes, whether it's Bam Bam Bigelow or Marty Jannetty, maybe some cautionary tales. I think for anyone, I'll argue this. I think maybe one good component.
I think it's fucking old news for anybody that's into wrestling. And if you're a fucking Mark and you're watching that stuff, then you really don't know wrestling. Because this stuff's been around forever. And I just think it's all slanted to kind of just shit on WWE, shit on Vince particularly, and it's just, again, I'm not a fan of it. And it emboldens Marks to think that they know more than people who've been in the business. It gives them the terminology to use all wrong. Sure. And I'm just not a fan of it. That's it.
I mean, listen, fair points. What I would argue maybe is, maybe you'll be on board with this. If anything, throughout the seasons, I think that there's maybe in the air, maybe a little bit of a cautionary aroma to people that maybe either want to get into the business or learn about the business, or young guys and girls that are on the independent scene. Maybe if anything else, these episodes can be, hey, maybe a cautionary tale and maybe a word to the wise. Hey, maybe you want to steer clear of certain things. You're right. The business is what it is. It's been like that for almost 100 years. When you think about, going back to really at the start of the National Wrestling Alliance, right? The oldest governing body in professional wrestling. Maybe if anything, dude, it might just be a helpful cautionary tale to some people about the business and people that are looking to get into it. Maybe some things to avoid. What do you think?
I think do your research, bro. That's what I think. I think if you're going to get into wrestling, do your fucking research. Don't let fucking Dark Side of the Ring tell you what it's about. Read a fucking book.
Sure.
Go outside. Like Filthy Brooks says, touch grass,
Let's move on to our main event topic this week, man. I know we've talked about it off the air a lot, and certainly, whether it's the announcement that William Goldberg is looking to have a retirement match, even
fucking legend, bro. Fucking Goatberg. Say his name right. Goatberg.
Even Ryback also announced that he'd like a retirement match as well. You look at guys.
The Ryback? The Ryback said that?
Apparently, yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So it got me thinking this week that there's always this discussion, though, Patrick, about how we view promoters and who they've dropped the ball with, or maybe haven't booked to our liking. So I want to be very careful in the way I use those sentences, because it's very subjective, and I don't want to fall into that Mark trap of like, well, so-and-so dropped the ball with this guy and this girl and then book them the way I liked. And again, that's what gets Marks in trouble. But I think to be a little bit more intellectually
Well,
honest.
that and the stuff that they're downloading at home.
Sure, of
Both
course.
those things.
No, of course. Let's kind of have let's have a quick chat here about maybe guys and girls over the years that haven't been presented in ways that we liked, or maybe could have been a little bit better. Again, I want to avoid dropping the ball because that always seems to be the line that's levied at Vince McMahon, right? Oh, Vince dropped the ball with this guy, and Paul now Triple H is dropping the ball with this guy or this girl. It's interesting because for all the scorn, scrutiny, and vitriol that Vince McMahon has gotten for decades, and even now to a little bit now Paul Levesque, why doesn't anybody have that same vigor with Tony Khan? Because I'm telling you right now, I'm running out of fingers and toes to name the amount of guys and girls that Tony Khan has not booked well or presented well. So again, if Marks are going to be intellectually honest, I know that some of them struggle with doing that. But if you're going to get on Vince and Paul for, hey, I don't like the way they've been using this guy or girl. Hey, can you be a little consistent and be outraged about Tony Khan? Because if anyone's done it more egregiously in just 5 years, it's Tony Khan.
Yeah, I agree. I think Anthony Rafiq Khan has certainly been a man who has dropped the proverbial ball. I just think that Tony's biggest fucking problem is that he doesn't take the stars that he has to build mainstream interest. Again, doesn't grow his audience. Uses the talent that he has to just cater to the marks. And the marks are really simple. Like, just get somebody Japanese or who can do a moonsault to take a shit in the ring and they'll fucking watch. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter what it is. As long as you have that criteria, you're going to be just fine. You know, just a lot of the decisions that he's made through the course of AEW has just been really, really off and hasn't been something that a wrestling promoter that's trying to grow a company could or would do. We take the case of Miro.
Yep.
Miro, this guy who was a cult favorite in WWE, but was somebody who the casuals kind of dug. I mean, the Rusev Day shit was super over, man.
It sold shirts. It sold merch.
It sold shirts. It sold merch. Crowd was into it. The crowd was always hot for it wherever the fuck they went with it. Maybe it's a personal thing. It's a personality issue. Who knows? I don't know what the problem is there, but that's one guy you could look at and say, yeah, he kind of dropped the ball with CM Punk. Another guy that, you know, you look at and you think to yourself, man, they could have just done so much more with this guy. You know, why didn't they bring him in while he was rusty, while he hadn't had matches in a while? Use him in a Piper's Pit type of spot. Use him to get over guys like Darby. Use him to get over guys like Pac. Use him to get over guys like Jungle Boy, people who can't talk. Use him to get over Adam Cole. You know what I'm saying? Like, use them like that so that you can build up other people's matches who maybe aren't as charismatic as he is. And then use that program after a couple of months to be able to, you know, set up his first program. But no, they didn't want to do that. You know, why didn't you put the title on Danielson as soon as he came in when he was hot, when he had just worked the WrestleMania main event against Roman and Edge? Like, why didn't they do all these things, you know? And again, you look at Tony Khan, you see the body of work. It doesn't promote a lot of confidence. It doesn't matter who's coming in, man. It doesn't matter who's coming in, okay? You could have Peak Austin and he would drop the fucking ball with this guy. That's just the way it is with him, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know, I think also, too, I think it sort of lends itself to this, I think, narrative that the marks that love that product, again, struggle to be intellectually honest and objective. Like, the idea that you're looking at, to your point about, hey, Danielson came in and he was hot and he fought, you know, he went up against Kenny Omega at the first Grand Slam event in Queens in September of 2021. So the idea was, well, you know, we're going to wait to put the belt on Hangman when he returns from paternity leave because Hangman's, you know, deserving, or he's bought his time and he's
the rankings, bro. It's the rankings.
Yeah, the homegrown. No, like, Danielson was as hot as you could get for a guy coming in. Put the belt on Danielson, dropping the ball with him. Maybe not booking Adam Cole, I think, as well as he should have.
What's that?
Not booking Adam Cole as well as he should have, Tony Khan.
Why should he, though?
Well, listen, Adam Cole is good with that audience, right? I mean, for that audience, it works. So why not elevate him more? The same thing with other people you're bringing in. I mean, the idea that you're signing ex WWE talent like Athena and not using her in a way that's a little more convincing. The same way with, Saraya, even Tony Storm. Yeah, listen, Tony Storm, congrats to her on winning the AEW Women's World Championship last Sunday at Double or Nothing. But again, from the moment you got her, this was a legitimate star, a good worker. Someone who's good on the mic too, by the way, whether she's a face or a heel. Let's be honest about Tony Storm. Good overall package. everything really she just checks off a lot of boxes. But meanwhile, Tony's like, well, let me go with the homegrown girl. Let me go with Britt Baker. Let me go with this girl and that girl. And I understand all that, but that's not growing a business. On the flip side, again, and it's
even Britt Baker there, Fern. Not to cut you off there, pal, but like even Britt Baker, right? Like, okay, Britt Baker, she can talk all right. She can do that whole fucking shtick that she does. But like, why didn't you like use Chelsea Green at the time? Like, he had Chelsea Green fresh out of that hot mess gimmick, man. Why didn't you use her? That's a chick that could work. That's a chick that could talk. And I know a lot of the marks that are listening right now, they're gonna go, well, she's barely getting any time in WWE, and she's always losing and blah blah blah. She's being featured in a good way. They're building a character with her.
Yeah.
And more importantly, she's a woman who has great fundamentals and is a great speaker, and she's an attractive woman. How is that not somebody that you want to make a star? You know what I'm saying? Like, Britt is decent for what Britt is, but Britt didn't have the experience that Chelsea had.
Correct. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And just mistakes like that over a long period of time, I just feel like they've just been adding up for so long. And here we are with this product, So like, anytime he gets a big free agent signing, the expectation's really low. It's in the fucking basement, because if we're going by anything that he's done thus far, it's probably not going to be fruitful.
Yeah, I mean, look at Swerve Strickland, Keith Lee. Those are guys that good workers, have a certain look that can be appealing if you market it correctly. And guess what? You've squandered them. To take Keith Lee seriously now, you can't. To take Swerve Strickland seriously, you can't. And I think that's something that has become synonymous with Tony Khan, but the marks don't give him the grief that he deserves. On the flip side, again, listen, and obviously there's a much larger body of work. We're talking about 40 plus years, and I know that, we've talked off the air about things that maybe we haven't liked. Well, I haven't liked, let's say, certain endings or certain booking decisions. But again, I'm being a smart. It's something I haven't liked. But to your point about everything that's happened has gotten us to where we are today. What's interesting, though, is that now we're seeing fans that were, let's say, very harsh on Vince about booking or about presentation, not being as harsh on Paul. And I'll give you a couple of examples. Like, notwithstanding everything that she represents, because she's clearly the star of the pair, how many more times are you going to track out Karrion Kross on television, whether it's cutting a promo or whatever else, to the point, and listen, they're trying to squeeze every bit of juice out of that lemon and see what they can do. But I think it's fair to say that you rehired Karrion Kross and it just hasn't resonated with the audience. Bronson Reed, I get it. A Kingpin look-alike type of character you're trying to reinvent now. Not the best talker, good worker for his size. But again, when he enters the arena, very uneventful. Johnny Gargano, love his character work. He's a guy that I think if you give him something, he can be very productive with it. I didn't like the changing of his theme music. I think that's what helped get him over a lot for a while. Again, not really resonating. Dexter Lumis, I think to some extent, some of the ladies. Why aren't fans? And again, I'm not saying, listen, and I like Johnny Gargano. I love Io Sky. That's my girl. That's like, I would knock her up tomorrow and gladly take a garnishment on my paycheck bi-weekly. And that's not a problem. You know what I'm saying? I think we'd have beautiful kids. But the point is that why aren't fans getting on Paul as harshly as they would on Vince or even Tony Khan when, let's be honest, like, bro, Like there are just some people that are not getting over, not necessarily Paul's fault, but maybe it's the talent to some extent. But Paul's just putting people out there for the sake of, yeah, let's get him out there. It's not working. And I just find it weird, man, that a lot of fans online are not getting on Paul's case the way they would on Vince's case.
Well, it's because a lot of them believe that Vince is the one booking it. When, you and I recently found out, or I actually ended up finding out that Billy Body had reported, and look, folks, say whatever you want to say about Billy Body. My views do not align with his. That's fine. Your views don't have to align with him either. I know my co-host here's views will probably align with his, and that's fine too. But Billy Body consistently is the most reliable news guy. A lot of the stuff that he said is going to happen has happened time and time again. And I just think people get a little too caught up maybe in the gimmick that he's playing and the stuff that he's doing, as opposed to what, news he's delivering. But he reported that the people that are responsible for the Bloodline angle are Michael Hayes, Paul Heyman, Roman, and the person who has final say in all this, Vince McMahon. So the hottest angle in the business is being run by the guy that everybody said was past his expiration date and needed to go. Everything else has thus far been Triple H. So I just think that people need to be a little bit more fair, I think, with Vince and what he's done and what he's doing, and definitely need to criticize and maybe even, change their opinion of what Triple H has been doing thus far, because there are some things that haven't worked out. Now, look, wrestling is strange, right? It takes a long time for these stories to come to fruition. The Bloodline storyline to get to where we're at now, and it's still not even done. And, we still haven't even gotten the full payoff yet. It's taken a very, very long time. So these characters have to marinate over time. But yeah, to your point, I just think that the people who don't dig what he's doing should call it out equally too. Instead of just, thinking that it's all Vince and, the good stuff is just Triple H. No.
I agree with you. And I think that fans, for whatever reason, listen, maybe they're just being partisan, or again, maybe in their mind, to your point, we've talked off the air, like it's not really been a full calendar year yet of Paul Levesque being the CCO. And as you mentioned, right, Billy Body reporting that Vince has had some say in some booking decisions or storytelling or writing, whatever. But that also emboldens the Marks to get all fickle and salty and say, oh, there, you see, I mean, look at Vince. Vince is back at it again. I hate to break it to people again, and we've said this on this episode. You can look back at the replays, folks. If Vince was truly, truly in charge, okay, we would not. Again, this is just speculation. This is just a theory. I'm just theorizing here. I don't have anything to back it up in a memo or anything tangible that we can see that's in writing. But let's be fair. If Vince was really having that much of a say in creative, Pat, would we really see Karrion Kross on TV as much as we're seeing him?
No.
Would we see Bronson Reed? Would we see Candice LeRae?
Zoe Stark?
Would we see Zoe Starks? Would we see maybe Trish? Maybe. But, I mean, would we see Bailey? No, that's a bad example. Bailey would still
we'd be seeing Nikita Lyons and Tiffany Stratton on the main roster. That's what we'd be seeing.
Correct. And listen, Tiffany Stratton continue to get better. Congrats to her winning the NXT Women's Championship. She checks off a lot of boxes. She's athletic. She's that Barbie doll look that, Vince does like, right? We've seen it in the past before. It's nothing new. We're not reinventing the wheel. However, there are people that Paul continues to push. Again, I know that you chew my head off when I say this, but like the Viking Raiders, okay, great workers, good gimmick, but you can tell that's Paul trying to see what we can do here and keep them on television, along with Sarah Logan, Valhalla. Hit Row was on Friday on SmackDown. Bro, again, nothing against Hit Row. They're workers. They've worked their way up the ranks. They've worked their way up the business to get to this level. Come on, man. If Vince was really in charge, we would not be seeing Hit Row on Fox on a nationally television show, a nationally syndicated show. We wouldn't be seeing Mia Yim and the OC on. I'm sorry, we wouldn't. We'd see AJ Styles on SmackDown. We'd see that because AJ's a great worker, but we wouldn't see Anderson and Gallows and Mia Yim, dude. It's like the fans, I think, have to be a little more intellectually honest.
I don't think Asuka would have won the women's championship either. I think that's debatable too.
Yeah, exactly. Because you rarely saw it with the previous regime. So I think that there's a serious problem. I think there's a disconnect. Yeah, nice one, nice comment there. I just think there's a big disconnect with fans where they see what they want to see, or they selectively are going to insert outrage and vitriol when they need to do it across the board. Again, you want to go after Paul Levesque and say, well, Vince still has say in what's going on with certain booking. And that's true. As you mentioned, Billy Body's reporting that he still has some input and maybe some influence. But bro, like, how can you exert all this energy and vitriol and hatred against Vince and Paul when you should be doing it against Tony Khan? Bro, Claudio Castagnoli speaks 30 languages, can't cut a promo on any of them. That's compelling. Good worker, great shape, great worker in the ring, but what are you doing with Claudio Castagnoli? What are you doing? And mind you, and Joe is on the tail end of his career. I get all that. What are you doing with Joe? You're relegating him to Ring of Honor on Thursdays. And unless you subscribe to that service, you're not going to watch Ring of Honor. What are you doing with Saraya? And I get it. Maybe she's limited in what she could do with work, her work rate and everything. What are you doing with Swerve Strickland? What are you doing with Keith Lee? What are you doing with Jericho? And again, Jericho's on the way tail end of his career. But what are you doing with guys and girls that you're signing or elevating or putting on national television and not using them correctly? Like, I just think a lot of wrestling marks don't exert their anger evenly, and there's an equivalency that they're not, I think, practicing.
Yeah, I just think that they're people who typically hate WWE. They hate Vince. And most of what they like is, a lot of the AEW stuff, a lot of the mark wrestling. And again, that's fine. But at the end of the day, you can't look at what WWE does and say that they suck or that they're not good at what they do, because again, the numbers indicate otherwise. But just watch what you fucking like. Watch what you fucking like. You know what I'm saying? But like, be honest enough to admit that what you like is a niche product, and what WWE does is a global product. It's a global product. I mean, you saw that Saudi Arabia show, and people were going friggin' nuts, man. Yep. That's no different than coming to a big market around here. That's no different than going to Chicago. That's no different than going anywhere else where the fans are going to be hot. Okay? And, I just think that, yes, bring back Bad Bunny, definitely. I just think that, people do need to be a little bit more even when it comes to that stuff. And look, not everything WWE's done has been for me. Not everything that they've done in the subsequent 20 to 25 years has been great, but the execution of it, the professionalism of the talent involved, the skill level, it's all there. You don't have to like the story, but the professionals that are involved are top notch.
No, they are. And I think it remains to be seen, though, again, as we approach a full calendar year for Paul, right around, I think, late July. I think right around once we get to SummerSlam, Patrick, that's going to be a full calendar year of Paul Levesque being the CCO, having complete influence about what the presentation is. And again, to this point, I mean, let's be, at least for me, I have to give him a grade of an A thus far. There's nothing that he's done, aside from maybe pushing certain people, which, again, isn't getting over with the audience, which is fine. That's going to happen. You have to break some eggs to make an omelet.
But who is he pushing that's not getting over with the audience?
Well, I would argue, I think Bronson Reed's a little flat when he comes out.
I wouldn't even say he's pushing him.
Well, no, not pushing him, but like he's
featuring him like more on TV, like showing him on TV, featuring him.
That's better term. Correct. Yeah, you're right. Correct.
Okay. Well, I mean, again, he's using the time that he has to build up that character to get him to a point where he matters, just like a lot of these other guys. And I think one thing, I mean, I'll give him a B so far. I will. I'm going to give him a B. But I will say that he's done a great job with the Judgment Day. He's done a great job with Dom. He's done a great job with featuring him. Who I don't know who Natty Hart is. That sounds like a drink somewhere. I know who Natty Neidhart is, and no, she didn't get screwed. She did her job.
It was her birthday. She should have won on her birthday.
She should have won on her. Is that Is that the 11th commandment or something? Is that something I was missing? So I don't know, man. I lost my fucking train of thought. That fucking comment threw me off. What were we talking about here?
You were talking about thus far. You're
Oh
giving.
yeah, Triple H. Okay, so the Judgment Day stuff's been fucking great.
Yeah.
That stuff's been great. Some of the other stuff I'd like to see how it goes in the next year or so. But I mean, look, all in all, he knows what he's doing. He understands. I'm not too into some of the people that he's been kind of featuring. I will say that he's been making some great matches lately on Raw. As a matchmaker, he makes some really, really good ones, man. And obviously something is working because they're drawing really great at all their house shows, which was a really, really big problem before. And, a lot of other podcasts and shows talk about that stuff, how, the house shows aren't drawing as good as, let's say, the big events or the weekly TVs are drawing. But, like I said, he's got to be for now. For not to cut you off here, I know we had a segment, or we had something in our Instagram story this past week where some of our listeners, some of our followers can submit some of their questions for us here. And I'd like to take this time to answer some of these questions. Sure. So we only have two, but we have one coming in from our pal, Sweet Lou 826. Luis Rodriguez, who was on here before on the program with the Rican Wrestle Talk podcast. He's also moved on. He's doing a more of an introspective career kind of thing for featured talents throughout a course of time. I know I'm butchering it right now, but Luis submitted a question and asked, who would be a better option to win the Money in the Bank briefcase, Logan Paul or Dom Mysterio? Pick only one. Oof. Well, I'd like for you to take this one, Fern, and I'll give my answer after.
Well, I think for the purposes of marketing and who's more main event ready, I would say Logan Paul. And the reason that's my answer is I think that what we've seen Logan Paul pick up in the last 2 years has been remarkable. He also has a good eye for the business. Not to say Dom hasn't improved. Again, don't get it twisted, folks. Don't think I'm shit on Dom Mysterio. I think the guy that's more main event ready and a guy you could feature on a pay-per-view in a main event type of atmosphere, I think is Logan Paul. Dom's not there yet. Good heel, growing, nuclear, generic, organic heat. That's what Dom Mysterio represents. But for a guy that is easily a more marketable villain across pop culture, I think it's Logan Paul.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of make an argument for both and then give my pick. I felt like what you highlighted with Logan Paul was perfect. I felt like you summed it up very, very well. He's obviously a guy who's a little bit more mainstream. He has his own following. So, again, you're going to be bringing in other fans. People are going to start watching wrestling that normally wouldn't watch wrestling. And, he's shown physically that he's a big talent and he can perform in a big spot. Also, if he has a good talent to work with him, he can achieve that. As workers, as far as being workers go, I have to give the edge to Dom. Dom is doing it more consistently. Yeah, Dom has been doing it a lot longer, right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Dom has, to your point, organic heat, okay? People don't even let him talk anymore. He can't even get a word in on Raw or SmackDown or any show that he appears on, okay? Anytime that dude holds a microphone, he can't get a word out because the crowd is just all over him. Yeah. Now, as far as Dom's story goes, I still feel like it's kind of unfinished with him and his dad. I feel like we still need to see more from that. I feel like, in that instance, Dom needs his win back. But I think that we need to see more from that. And I feel like him becoming world champion, even if it is good, if that's his first if that's his first championship that he wins, singles championship, I feel like the world title would be good. But part of the thing with Dom is that he's kind of like the coward that's got to hide behind the girl and hide behind the crew. And I just kind of feel like he needs to kind of run with that a little bit more. And I also think that given who, the world heavyweight champion is now in Seth Rollins, I think that Logan Paul cashing in on him would be perfect, especially, considering the match that they had. So I'm with you. I would have to pick Logan Paul to be the guy. And it's going to be very interesting to see what happens between now and then. We got another question in here from Comic Book Warrior, our friend Comic Book Warrior, Gabe Baez. Shout out to Gabe Baez. And Gabe wanted to ask, when will the Comic Book Warrior be back on? I heard he isn't the same after Marcelo's. Well, that certainly will be an interesting question to ask the Comic Book Warrior the next time he's made available. Obviously, world traveling wrestler. We're going to have to see if we can reserve some time to have him back on the show, though. So, Gabe, we'd love to have you on. But those are our questions for the week. And, folks, from now on, we're going to be doing this as a regular thing on our Instagram. Feel free to drop any questions, any comments, anything you want to say. Whether you hate us, whether you love us, whatever it might be, please feel free to drop some questions, drop some comments there on our Instagram. We're going to be featuring it every Thursday on our Instagram story.
Yeah.
Profe, back to you, sir.
Listen, send the questions, folks, comments. We love to hear feedback from the fans that watch us every week. And listen, what we try to do
it for the people, right? We do it for the people.
And all we try to do is give you the best wrestling analysis that's out there from two guys that from very different backgrounds. One's a worker, one's a smart, and we're just trying to give you intellectually honest pro wrestling analysis every week. So, folks, keep the comments and questions coming on our Instagram page. As you can see, the handles are there on the banner, of course, due to our courtesy, of our amazing Dee Rotten. Pat, before we call it a night here on this day in pro wrestling history on June the 4th, interesting. At a SmackDown taping in Oklahoma City, Billy and Chuck defeated Rico and Rikishi to win the WWE Tag Team Championships on a Thursday night SmackDown. Interesting. On this day, also in 2011, Mick Foley was granted his release from TNA Wrestling after a brief run that included him winning the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. And on this day, finally, on June the 4th in 2017, two titles changed hands at the WWE Extreme Rules pay-per-view at the Royal Farms Arena in downtown Baltimore. The Miz won the Intercontinental title from Dean Ambrose in a steel cage match. The Bar of Sheamus and Cesaro defeated the Hardy Boys in a cage match to win the Raw Tag Team Championships after losing them at WrestleMania just a couple months before. And in the main event, Samoa Joe became the number one contender for Braun Strowman's Universal Championship after winning a fatal five-way match against Finn Balor, Bray Wyatt, Roman Reigns, and Seth Rollins. All that good stuff, folks, happening on this day, June the 4th, in pro wrestling history. Pat, what's coming up for you, brother?
Peach, understand, I'm gonna love you till the very end. Sorry, I saw the Mario Brothers movie and that song got stuck in my head. So. Shout out to Jack Black, man. Hell of a fucking performance. And what a voice on that guy, man. I mean, he could do anything with any character. But no, we got a big show coming up soon. The Child Actors, we're going to be playing on July 15th. And it's going to be the Child Actors, Locaine, Airseas Fragment, and Chaotician. It's going to be at Don Ramon's. Don Ramon, I know you know that place. We're going to call it Don Razor Ramon that night. It's going to be fucking great. And we're going to have some ticket information available for everybody. We're going to have some pre-sales. I got to tell you, man, these pre-sales are going to be great. Not only do you get a discounted ticket, but you get a gimmick too. So you could be walking around with a Child Actors shirt. But we're going to have more details on that as soon as we can. And it's just been great to be back here. It's been a while. Hopefully I will see this mug of you on this screen, next week and in the coming weeks, because we obviously have a ton of great stuff coming up in the wrestling world. But just be safe for everybody. Don't smoke crack and do your research, bro.
Woo! Folks, again, check out yours truly on Monday nights for Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Great traffic for the month of May, all organic, 12,000 plus views for Real Talk with Fernando Uribe. I couldn't do it without you, my loyal viewing audience, so thank you to that. Folks, check out Working the Marks, obviously, on YouTube. Make sure you always, click that like button on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter. And without a doubt, folks, whatever you can, sharing is caring. Share Working the Marks on all of your social media platforms. Hey, it's why the show is growing. to where the traffic is nice, and we'll continue working hard. Yes, we'll be twerking the marks. That's right. That's what we like to do on here. Even tweening the marks sometimes as well with some of our opinions and our outlook, of course. Folks, he is New Jersey's premier wrestling analyst and big William Goldberg fan. He is the notorious, the glorious Brian First, not the last, of course, a.k.a. Patrick Vincent Rivera, the PBR superstar. Folks, I am New Jersey's premier journalist, top 50 Latino, and, of course, the weapon of mass disruption in Garden State Media. Fernando Uribe saying so long, folks. And as always, thank you so much for watching us here on Famcast Media. And you know, if we're doing it, it's always working the marks here on StreamYard. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Famcast Media.